October 5th, 2021. The day that Sora, the main protagonist of Kingdom Hearts, joined Super Smash Bros. Ultimate as the final DLC fighter for the game. People all over the internet praised his inclusion, considering it to be the perfect way to end the biggest gaming crossover that has ever existed, and probably ever will exist. I, on the other hand, was rather neutral about it. I mean, at the time, I obviously knew what Kingdom Hearts was, but I had never played it, and although I got a lot of great characters throughout Smash Ultimate's DLC, my most wanted, who I prefer to keep private, didn't make it in whatsoever, not even as a Spirit or a Mii costume. It also didn't help that I was going through a rather stressful period of time from September to November of 2021, which again, I'd prefer to keep private. So naturally, I would think that this was a pretty underwhelming way to end off such a fantastic game. Honestly, I can't even remember the last time I played Smash Ultimate, and I remember playing it all the time throughout 2019 and 2020. I guess the anticipation of what character could be next was what made me keep playing the game, and now that it's over, well, it just doesn't feel the same. As time went on though, I kept getting more and more curious. What the hell even is Kingdom Hearts? At the time, there were only two things that I knew about it. Number 1, it's an RPG that has both Disney and Final Fantasy characters in it, and number 2, it has a confusing ass storyline. That's it. Eventually, morbid curiosity got the best of me, and earlier this year, I bought the game, excited to see what kind of gaming masterpiece I would be getting into. All that I will say is, sometimes, I shouldn't try and get into something just because it gets a lot of acclaim, for I could potentially end up being heavily disappointed. This is a video game that I have ever so desperately tried to like, but unfortunately, there are just too many problems with this game that prevent me from doing so. There's a chance that this might become the most controversial video I'll ever make, but I don't care. I want to be completely honest with my thoughts on the game. It disappoints me. It disappoints me in so many fucking ways. Before I explain why it disappoints me, there are some important things that you need to know first. The first thing to note is that I have only played the first Kingdom Hearts, and as such, I will only be talking about that game. I am aware that there are quite a fair amount of games in this franchise, and that in order to fully understand the apparently confusing storyline, I have to play every single one of them, and not just the numbered games. There's a chance that whatever flaws Kingdom Hearts 1 has, isn't present in the later games, but due to how heavily story-based this series is, and because I haven't even beaten the first game, and probably never will, there's no chance that I'll ever play the other games in the series. The second thing to note is that I am playing the original PS2 version of Kingdom Hearts, and not one of those remaster compilations with the word salad titles. I have no idea if there are any differences story-wise between the original PS2 version of the first Kingdom Hearts and the word salad remaster of the first Kingdom Hearts. If there are any differences, well, I am fucked beyond belief. The third thing to note is, despite what you might think, I'm not bringing up the confusing storyline of Kingdom Hearts as one of my problems with the game. Again, I have only played the first Kingdom Hearts, and from what I've heard, the first Kingdom Hearts, on its own, actually has a fairly understandable storyline. But once you get into the later games, that's when shit gets complicated. Funnily enough, from what I've played of it so far, I don't necessarily have a problem with the first Kingdom Hearts storyline. Still, I understand that the storyline is a very important aspect of this whole series, so I do not recommend this video to anyone that has not played the game, and wants to know what it's like and whether they should play it or not. Instead, this video is more for people that are actually familiar with the franchise. If, for whatever reason, you decide to ignore my warning, and continue watching the video despite not being familiar with Kingdom Hearts, just know that there are a lot of spoilers in the video. Seriously, it's better to just not watch this video if you're not familiar with Kingdom Hearts whatsoever. Trust me. Anyways, moving on. The fourth thing to note is that, as stated earlier, I have not beaten this game, and I don't think I will ever beat it. However, I have almost 11 hours worth of playtime for this game, and I think I've played enough of the game to form an opinion on it, and explain why I find it so disappointing. The fifth, final, and most important thing to note, is that I was genuinely excited to get into this franchise. Some of you might be asking, why have I spent almost 11 hours playing a video game that I don't like very much? Well, it's because this game has potential. A lot of potential in fact. I love the extremely fucking bizarre concept that it has. But that's not enough to save this game. It's a bit funny, because most of my criticisms toward the game are rather trivial and nitpicky. However, there are a few genuine flaws that this game has. And these flaws are so strong, that they completely ruin the game for me. I'm sorry, but I don't see the 10 out of 10 masterpiece that everyone else sees. I have given this game God knows how many chances, but it just never gets better. To be fair, it never gets worse either, but for the most part, it just stays in this middle area of mediocrity, with a few serious issues that slightly moves it towards the negative side. Now that I've gotten all of that out of the way, I suppose it's time to dissect what I strongly dislike about Kingdom Hearts. So, I start the game, and everything's fine and dandy. I finish the opening tutorial. I get a feel of the controls. I learn how the combat in this game works. And then once I'm done with the tutorial, I get to know some of the main characters, and how the game starts off. Everything is perfectly fine so far, but sadly, as much as I hate to admit it, things go downhill very fucking quickly. Eventually, I stumble upon my first issue with the game. Now, unlike every other criticism that I have with this game, this one is more likely my fault, rather than the game's fault, but I still think it's worth bringing it up, since it did give me a rather rough start with the game. Early into the game, you are given a list of things to collect in order to sail out into the seas. These things include a seagull egg, 3 mushrooms, 2 coconuts, 3 fish, and drinking water. Now, almost all of these things are extremely easy to obtain. Almost. You might be asking, which one of these items were hard for me to get? Well, it's none other than the fucking coconuts. I didn't know it then, but this was the beginning of the end. My excitement for what this game could potentially hold for me. My optimism for this game. That feeling I had that I would love this game, and become a huge fan of it. Gone. Completely gone. Thanks to these fucking coconuts. These coconuts ruined the good mood that I had playing this game for the first time. What I initially thought was that you had to climb up the palm trees around the beach in order to find the coconuts. Granted, you do have to climb up a palm tree to find the seagull egg, but I also thought that you had to climb the palm trees in order to get the coconuts as well. It's the only logical way to find them, right?
Wrong!
I spent at least 30 minutes, possibly an hour, climbing every single palm tree, but to no avail. And keep in mind that there were only 2 areas of the beach that I could look around in. So I had barely any options as to where the damn coconuts could be. Eventually, I gave up, and looked up a guide for the game. I found 2 guides. The first guide was vague as hell as to where the coconuts were, and was essentially useless. The second guide was actually useful, as it told me exactly what I had to do. Get this. I had to walk up to a palm tree, any palm tree, and whack the shit out of it. The coconuts fall down, and I collect them, but only the green ones. Admittedly, I should have guessed that that was what I had to do, once I realized that climbing the palm trees didn't work. And to be fair, it does make sense to obtain the coconuts this way, but at the same time, how the fuck was I supposed to know that you could hit the trees, and that you have to do that in order to get the coconuts? Couldn't the game have made it just a little bit more obvious that the trees were hittable, and not just background objects with no purpose? Again, this is a bit of a nitpick, and it is most likely my own fault and not the game's fault. But still, this was a huge red flag for me about what the game would be like, and it did give me second thoughts about whether I'll like the game or not. After that though, it would be quite a while before the game became bullshit again. So, I continue playing through the game, with little problems. I'm sure most people watching this video know what happens later on, so I'm not gonna bother going into elaborate detail as to what happens next. Also, I'm on a rather tight deadline with this video, and I cannot shoehorn in every single detail about the plot. So yeah, sorry for being lazy. Not really though. Sora notices a storm outside, and checks on the boat that he and his friends made. He obtains the keyblade, not knowing what it is, or where it came from. The storm hitting the beach actually turns out to be a group of creatures known as the Heartless. Sora ends up in a mysterious place without his two friends, and eventually meets up with Donald Duck and Goofy, who were looking for the key. It is then that the adventure truly begins. So, now that I've reached the point where I have the three main characters, I feel that it's time for me to talk about my thoughts on the gameplay. It's, fine I guess. I don't really know how to explain it in great detail. It's not bad, don't get me wrong. The game is playable for the most part. The thing is, to put it bluntly, the gameplay isn't very fun. I don't know how I can further elaborate on this. It's just not very fun. For the most part though, it isn't necessarily awful either. It's honestly quite mediocre really. There have been numerous instances throughout my playthrough of the game, where I get stuck trying to figure out where I'm supposed to go, and what I'm supposed to do, which hinders whatever fun I could have potentially been having playing this game. I'll go into more detail about that when we get there. There's also one thing that really pisses me off specifically about the combat, mainly relating to the commands on the bottom left of the screen.
Okay, so this is the kind of bullshit that I'm talking about that pisses me off with this game. Alright, so you see down here, command. You got all kinds of shit you can do. Attack, magic items, and then a fourth thing that occurs when you're like close to something, like a vase or whatever. You could pick it up and throw it or whatever. Yeah. Here's the problem with this thing. Now, let me just get my controller. Alright. Let's say I'm in the middle of a battle and I need to perform magic. However, because I'm in like the midst of a battle and shit, I accidentally press down too fast and I go into items instead. I accidentally press items and it's like, no, I don't want items. I want to perform magic. Now, if this was a good game, what would happen is I press back and then the cursor would be on items, and then I could just go up and then select magic, and then I could just do my thing and everything's fine and dandy. Nope. Here's how the game works. I press back and it's set to attack on default, which really fucks me over if I want to, like, you know, perform magic. And I'm sure this has happened as well, where it's like I want to select items but then I accidentally press magic and you know, I'm fucked. So then I go back and then attack is it by default, and it's like, for fuck's sake. So it's just bullshit, man. It's just bullshit. I will never get used to this. It's just bullshit. It's fucking nonsense, man. I'm sorry. That's just indefensible. Undefendable. The fuck am I saying? God damn it.
Aside from that though, there isn't anything wrong with the gameplay that I can bring up right now. But don't worry, we're going back to the bullshit very soon. There's just one more thing that I forgot to bring up at the beginning of the video, and I feel that it might explain why I don't enjoy this game all that much. Here it goes. I have never played a single Final Fantasy game before in my life. Obviously, Kingdom Hearts is known for having many Disney characters in it, but there are also various Final Fantasy characters that appear throughout the series. Admittedly, it's quite easy for me to forget that this isn't just a Disney RPG, but a Disney RPG that also has Final Fantasy characters in it. I have a slight feeling that this might explain why I don't enjoy Kingdom Hearts all that much, but at the same time, I kinda doubt that not playing a single Final Fantasy game would affect my enjoyment of Kingdom Hearts. I just wanted to bring this up now, since I know people would be wondering if I'd even played Final Fantasy before. Anyways, now it is time for us to leave Traverse Town, and to explore 2 new worlds. What wonders could await us in these worlds? Why, it's none other than my second problem with this game. Every time you enter a new world, you have to play a mini-game, where you ride a ship known as the Gummy ship, and you have to dodge enemies and other various obstacles in your way. At first, these mini-games aren't that bad, and then you have to play them again, and again, and again, and again, and again. Every time you want to enter a different world, you have to sit through this mini-game, and waste 5 minutes of your time. It's not unplayable or anything like that, but good god, is it ever so fucking boring to play. It's cool doing it the first time you enter a new world, because it adds suspense as to what the next Disney movie world you're about to enter could be, but doing it every single time you want to revisit the new world? Forget it. Just have it be optional. Oh yeah, there's also the occasional scenario where you can truly grasp just how pointless these mini games are. Let me give you a scenario that has most likely happened to at least one of you. I'm in a world that doesn't have any sort of shop, and I'm low on items, so I have to go back to Traverse Town. Since that's the only world I know of that has a shop, I go to the map, select Traverse Town, and waste 5 minutes of my time playing the gummy ship mini game. Eventually, I enter Traverse Town, go to the shop, buy whatever shit I need, leave Traverse Town, go back to the world that I was in, and waste another 5 minutes playing the fucking gummy ship mini game. Who the fuck thought this mini game was a good idea? Something extremely easy that should take around 2 or 3 minutes to do, ends up taking at least 10 minutes to do, because of these damn mini games. Unlike the coconuts that I talked about earlier, this right here is a genuine flaw that severely ruins the game, and whatever enjoyment I could have gotten out of playing it. There's no way in hell any Kingdom Hearts fan could look at this, and not see anything even remotely wrong with it. These mini games do nothing but make Kingdom Hearts more slow and boring. And if you can believe it, there's another flaw that this game has that makes it even more slow and boring than it already is. We'll get there when we get there. I'm aware that you also have the option to customize the ship, but I don't even bother doing that. For one thing, they give you too many instructions on how to customize it, and it's hard to memorize all of it at once. By the time you finish the tutorial, and actually start customizing the ship, you'll be thinking, wait, what the fuck was step 1 again? They do give you a screen which explains how to customize the ship in simpler details, and you can access it at any time, but it doesn't matter, as the main reason why I don't bother customizing the gummy ship, is because I doubt it would make the mini games any less pointless. Anyways, after wasting 5 minutes going through the gummy ship mini game, we finally arrive at the first Disney movie to be permanently ruined for me, Alice in Wonderland. And, look, I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I first got this game somewhere around late March of this year, and although I initially played it on a mostly daily basis, that all changed when I got to Wonderland. Ever since Wonderland, I've played the game in very small doses, making the most out of every playthrough. This game frustrates me that much, and this will be further highlighted when we enter the next world. For now, we stay in Wonderland. Despite the fact that I literally played this game only a few months ago, and despite the fact that Wonderland was exactly where shit went completely downhill, to the point where there was no return, I genuinely barely remember what the fuck it was that pissed me off in Wonderland. So excuse me for being lazy during this part of the video. I very much remember being heavily pissed off inside the Lotus Forest, but I legitimately don't remember why, and I'm pretty sure I got to Wonderland around April, almost 2 months ago. I don't know, I guess I just had other shit going on in my head for me to really pay attention to what pissed me off. I can't remember, and to be honest, I'm not sure if I even want to remember. The most that I can tell you is that this was when my earlier criticism of not knowing where to go or what to do really started to become apparent. There were items in some parts of Wonderland that, if it weren't for various playthroughs of the game online, I'd have no idea you could interact with. The only thing that pissed me off about Wonderland, that I also remember in great detail, was this part where you give a flower a potion, and it spits something onto Sora that makes him huge, and then you have to hit a tree a few times before you get this thing that Sora eats and shrinks him down. God only knows the amount of potions I wasted in order to become giant. Hit the tree, climb up the tree, and see all the possible routes I could go to make any sort of progress. Don't even get me started on the instances where I select a potion, but I accidentally give it to Sora, Donald, or Goofy, instead of the flower. Fuck that shit. I'm pretty sure that this was when I had my first fit of rage playing this game, and sadly, it wouldn't be the last. Other than that, that's about all that I can remember. I think what happened was that this event annoyed me enough, to the point where I started watching a let's play of the game, and following it as accurately as possible, to prevent this kind of nonsense from happening. I'm pretty sure I also made a vow to start doing things myself once I moved on to the next world. Because, well, where's the fun in watching a let's play to help you get through a game? It's okay to use them occasionally for when you get lost in a game, but in Kingdom Hearts, getting lost is extremely fucking easy to do. I don't really know what else to say about Wonderland, but I can assure you that this was when everything went downhill, and whatever hope I had for this game being good was completely gone. Shit. I guess while we're still here, I might as well talk about my third big flaw with this game. Near the end of my adventures in Wonderland, we get a boss, as to be expected. Now, I have two major problems with the bosses in this game, this one not being as major as the other one, but it's still really big. This is what an average boss fight looks like in Kingdom Hearts. Notice anything important missing? No? Well, let me ask. Where the fuck is the health bar for the boss? How the hell am I supposed to know if I'm close to beating the boss or not? I'm not sure if this can be considered a nitpick or a genuine flaw, but either way, I think it's bullshit that a basic necessity isn't present by default, and that you must turn it on. Yes, you heard me right. In order to see the enemy's health bar, you have to pause the game, go to abilities, and select scan. That way, you can finally be able to see the health bar for the enemy. Also, I'm 99% sure that this is something that you have to unlock later into the game, although I don't know exactly when it is you unlock it. Regardless, why the fuck should I have to manually turn on the health bar for the bosses? Why isn't it turned on by default? Do you have any idea how much worse some of the later bosses in this game could be, if I didn't know that I could turn the health bars on? How is any kid that plays this game supposed to know that they have to manually turn on the health bars via the pause menu? It's bullshit. Straight bullshit. Okay, I beat the boss. Some random bullcrap that I'm too lazy to go into detail about happens. A new world gets unlocked, and I decide to check it out. I'm over here thinking that all the confusing shit would be exclusive to Wonderland. And in a weird way, it kinda makes sense that the Alice in Wonderland world would be confusing as hell to navigate. In which case they probably shouldn't have made it one of the first two worlds that you could choose to check out. But I digress. I enter the world. I spend 40 million years playing through the gummy ship minigame, and I eventually arrive at the second Disney movie to be permanently ruined for me, Tarzan. Now, it's worth noting that unlike Wonderland, I very much remember all of the bullshit that occurred throughout the Tarzan world. It's also important to note that I've never actually seen Tarzan before, and after playing this world, I don't think I ever will. I've actually obtained a hand-me-down DVD of Tarzan not long ago, and I can't wait to have this Disney classic be forever ruined for me by Kingdom Hearts. I'm sorry, Phil Collins. Forgive me for everything that I have just said. Hey, look on the bright side. At least Brother Bear is still safe. Anyways, as I was saying, I initially thought that the Tarzan world would be nowhere near as bad as Wonderland. Oh, if only I knew what was to come. But before that though, as I approached the Tarzan world, something came up on my mind. Obviously the main characters of this game are Sora, Donald, and Goofy, but are they the only playable characters in the game? Surely that couldn't be the case. This game has a huge collection of Disney characters. It would be ridiculous to have these three be the only playable characters in this massive Disney crossover. I mean, I'm fine with Sora being the default playable character, but surely I could swap out Donald and Goofy with any other characters, right? Well, yes, but also, no. The trio crash the gummy ship into the jungle. Sora wakes up separated from Donald and Goofy. He then comes across a jaguar. A brief boss battle ensues, before Tarzan finally jumps into action, and Sora meets him. It is then that I get my hopes up for a potential redemption arc for this game. I see the party member select screen, and I immediately get excited at the fact that Tarzan could be on my team. You see, what I thought was that when I unlocked a new party member, I could have them on my team at any time, regardless of which world I was on. I genuinely thought that if I went back to Wonderland with Tarzan on my team, I would be able to run around Wonderland with him on my team. Of course, this game decides to go against my wish, and essentially defeat the whole purpose of making this a giant Disney crossover game. Sometime after making a fair amount of progress on the Tarzan world, I decide to test this out. I exit the Tarzan world, go to Wonderland, and disappointment. Are you fucking kidding me? The game can't even be just a little bit fun, and have Disney characters interact in other Disney movie worlds? No, of course not. Tarzan is only playable in the Tarzan world. Aladdin is only playable in the Aladdin world. Jack Skellington is only playable in the Nightmare Before Christmas world. Because fuck making the game fun. Am I right, guys? It doesn't help that the fucking gummy ship minigame makes this whole ordeal even longer than it needs to be. It should have taken me only a minute, possibly less, to go from the deep jungle to Wonderland, and then back to the deep jungle. But no, I have to waste at least 10 or so minutes playing this extremely boring space shooter. Ugh. Can someone please explain to me why people like this game? People will say it's my fault for wasting my time doing something stupid and seeing if it works. But it's not my fault that I went into this cartoon crossover game expecting, I don't know, a cartoon crossover game? Yes, you have summons, but those aren't the same. I don't want to have Simba in Agrabah for only a minute or two. I want to have him in Agrabah at all times. It would be fun, which is something that this game is seriously devoid of. I understand as well that there are some instances where these wouldn't work. For example, I don't know how the hell you could have any Disney character explore the Little Mermaid world, but for the most part, I see literally no problem in having these characters interact in other worlds. At the very least, couldn't we go crazy with the party members in the original locations made exclusively for Kingdom Hearts? Like Traverse Town? No? Well, you can just fuck right off then. Alright, now that I've gotten that out of the way, it's time for us to explore the Tarzan world, where all the flaws of the game really start to show, including what might be the biggest problem with this game. The one flaw this game has that makes me sincerely question why people love this game so damn much. In part 2, we explore the hellish nightmare, that is, Deep Jungle,